Spain took away literally thousands of tons of silver from Mexico, right? Colonization explains the wealth of most of the nations of the world. One single factor, colonization, can explain why England is so rich, why Denmark is so rich, why the Holland is so rich. All this is explained by these things. What do you do with all the wealth that you've gathered from the colonies? You build machines. With the machines, you're able to process the resources faster, and you're able to generate more currency in a faster manner. So after the period of colonization, which started around 1400 with Prince Ferdinand of Portugal, remember the Portuguese and the Spanish were the first people to colonize countries. The Europeans came a little later. Europeans as in France, Germany, Italy. The last to join the fray were the British. They came very, very late. What is the reason? Because they were looting the Spanish ships. So Spanish ships which were coming from Mexico bringing all the silver to England, English people were looting these ships and taking away. So they didn't need to colonize at all. And they were granted a license to do this by the Queen, and this was called as a privateer license. So you would remember Sir Francis Drake, the Sir category was given to him, and Francis Drake was one of the biggest pirates in history. He looted all of this. So yeah, coming to the point is industrialization was something which was the next development in the trade and economy. Now, three things happened in industrialization. First is England found coal. This is lignite. This is not charcoal. Charcoal was being used even in the Roman kingdom, right? In the 4th BC, 5th BC. So charcoal was always used, but charcoal has a lower calorific value than mined coal. So mined coal was found in England. Iron was already in use, but the discovery of the steam engine led to the industrialization. With the power of the steam, the heat of the coal, and the strength of the iron, we could do so many things in industry. And we started processing all of this and making stuff. But remember, like I said, industrialization happened in the temperate climate countries, and temperate climate countries were resource poor. So a whole lot of raw material was shipped from tropical climates to the temperate climates. And again, we were actually feeding the industrial revolution of England, right? Any guesses what was the biggest driver of demand for the industrial revolution?
Machines?
No, what was driving market demand?
Demand.
Industries were started producing stuff, but they were producing stuff very fast, right? Uske pehle we were doing everything by hand, and that we were able to make things very slowly. But industries came, we were able to process resources very fast. So if you are able to make one piece in one day, in industries you can make 20 pieces in one day. But where do you sell them? What was driving the demand?
They needed new markets. They needed new markets all the time, and they also needed a lot of raw material, cheap raw material.
Sorry, Sohini, can you say that again? 1 minute, Sohini.
I said there was a constant need for discovering new markets.
Yes.
And there also a huge demand for cheap raw materials. So, and markets as well as raw materials.
Okay. Yes, Nisha, you were saying something?
Even laborers were made available for them.
Yes, even labor were made. But most important driver for industrial produce was
excess looting of raw material.
Market.
Consumers.
Okay.
Love to travel and transport.
Every technology was developed for war. Right? there were huge battles going on as the Industrial Revolution started. Around 1600, the Industrial Revolution started and it started peaking. By that time, there were a lot of battles. American Independence War had started around 1700. Germany was fighting its colonies. There was a lot of battle between the French and the Dutch in Africa. In South America, there were battles. In India, we had a lot of uprising. All of this needed rifles, needed ships, needed ammunition, needed explosives, needed brass bullets, needed so many other things. And by that time, as Industrial Revolution started feeding these battles, it had already grown into the World War I. And World War I broke all grounds. And then there was a huge demand for everything. Submarines, aircraft, planes, tanks, battle tanks, guns, automatic light machine guns. All these discoveries and these inventions happened because there was a demand in war. World War II, after World War I ended, what do you think happened? Suddenly the demand dropped in the world. And there was the Great Depression. It started in 1919 and lasted up to 1930-35. The Great Depression was one of the blackest periods in the history of America and Europe. That is because Americans lost. There were banks which closed down. There were stock markets which came crumbling down. Unemployment was rife. People who had migrated to cities started living in slums. There were soup kitchens. People didn't have food. It was really, really, really the blackest period in American history. And Europe was suffering its repercussions for the simple reason that after the World War I stopped, the demand for industrial output fell dramatically. And as this happened, the entire world went into a recession. How did it come out of the recession? Any guesses?
Second World War.
Yes, World War II. Absolutely right. World War II stimulated demand again, and again Industrial Revolution started happening. We had, by that time, people had invested in huge expansion of capacities, production capacity, so on and so forth. But because of the Great Depression, many businesses shut down, banks closed, bankrolls happened, all of this happened. But World War II managed to pull up the situation. And after World War II, the developed countries went into what is called as the famous Bretton Woods conference, which happened in Hotel Washington in New Jersey. And they decided on some economic regulations, so on and so forth. But suffice it to say, cutting the long story short, the point I wanted to make here, let me just wipe out what I've written on the screen. Yeah. The point I wanted to make here is the evolution of trade and commerce is logical and is fueled entirely by one thing: agricultural surplus. Because we got agricultural surplus, we were able to generate surplus currency. Because we had surplus currency, we were able to make and exchange it with more stuff that we wanted. And today's economy is completely based on making luxury goods. Look at the global personal luxury goods market. Today, we are not producing food. We are not making necessities. We are making what are called in economics as discretionary products. Yeah, I'll come back to this in a minute. And then after that, we have the modern economy. I'm going to spend a little bit of time on explaining. I'm sure there will be economics professors in this room. I'm going to simplify economics a little bit for connecting it to sustainable development. So please bear with me. Okay, before that, let us quickly go through the differences between ancient trade and commerce and the modern economy. What do you think? Just keep saying things. What do you think? What do you see are the differences that we just discussed?
Barter system in ancient trade.
Exchange
Yes,
things for
very
things.
good. Barter
Exchange things
system.
for
One
Volume
minute.
of exchange.
Elvira was saying something. Elvira,
exchange things for things, sir.
come
Well,
again. I didn't
barter
get you.
system you said. You
That is
said
what barter system, ma'am.
That is
That is
barter
what
system,
barter
right?
system.
Yes, Jaiwan.
Volume of exchange
Volume
has
of,
changed.
yes, absolutely. Volume of exchange has grown up. Absolutely.
so. Also, the demand has grown.
Population started increasing.
Population started increasing in the modern economy. Okay.
Demand.
Anything else? Demand, market demand started increasing. Very good.
In modern economy, there is a
Technology.
production without demand.
There is a production without demand in modern economy. Okay, we'll get back to that.
Also, luxuries. Luxuries. It added to the luxuries
Yeah, so we
part of
started
it.
making luxury stuff. Let's see what I have listed down. The first is ancient trade was based on biotic capital, biomass, forest, animals, farms, so on and so forth. What about the modern economy?
Abhay.
Yeah. Can you find different words for these two? For biotic and abiotic, any other words which are used very commonly today?
Living, non-living.
No. Very commonly used in economics.
Organic, inorganic.
No.
Recycle.
Renewable, non-renewable.
Absolutely. Renewable and non-renewable. Right? So today's economy is based on non-renewable capital. We need fossil fuels. Without fossil fuels, nothing can be produced. Nothing. Absolutely nothing. Right? We need minerals. We need to produce synthetic materials. Each one of them is taking away non-renewable stock. The next difference, like you said, barter and exchange, and here is completely on medium of exchange. It is only about currency. Like I said, all of us are involved in generating currency. Ancient trade was on human and animal energy. Modern economy? What about modern?
Machine. With the help of machine.
Technology.
Fossil fuel energy. We have to burn coal, we have to burn crude oil, petrol, diesel, LFO, RFA. All of these, we have to have that. Ancient trade was essentially serving needs. What is modern economy serving? This would be easy to answer.
Luxury.
Yeah, desires and aspirations. Yeah. Started off as an egalitarian society. Equality was there in the society. Now, modern economy is about ownership on nature. Who owns the resources? Right? That is all about that. Okay, so I said I will talk a little bit about equity and equality. Anybody can make a difference between equity and equality?
So may I make an attempt?
Yes, please, Elvira. Yeah. I
So
hope you guys
equity
don't mind me calling you by the first name, all of you.
Definitely
Yeah,
not.
okay.
Definitely not.
Yeah, and you can, of course, call me Guru or Gurudas, whatever. It doesn't matter.
So may I?
Yeah, please go ahead.
Yeah. Equity would be justice.
Mm-hmm. And equality would be?
Equality would be equal.
Okay. Equal as in division, equally divided. Okay. Anybody else wants to attempt?
So equity means the resources has been divided equally to the individual, and equality means the resources has been distributed towards the according to his or his capability. Like that's what I think.
Just the opposite, I think.
Yeah, exactly. You just said the opposite. So Sujay pointed out that error.
Oh,
Now,
okay. Sorry, sir.
and
That's what.
because no, there's nothing to be sorry about. In learning, if you don't make mistakes in learning, you don't learn. So it just doesn't matter. So because we are all professors, I'll give you an example. What is equity and equality? I teach a class of sustainability, and there are 60 students in that class. All 60 students get to attend my lectures, right? They are able to hear exactly the same things which everybody else in the class hears. They get exactly the same notes which anybody else gets. They get exactly the same examples and case studies that I do. That is equality. I set a question paper at the end of the term. The question paper is exactly the same for everybody. That is equality. The answer sheets come to me. I give them exactly the same marks. Isn't that stupid? Yeah.
Yes, absolutely.
So I will correct their question papers. I will evaluate them and mark them. That is equity. Right?
Okay.
So equity, like Ram said, is about evaluating the capabilities and then meeting out whatever needs to be given. Equality is giving an opportunity which is equal. You get the difference? So ancient trade was about equity, is because everybody had access to the same set of resources. But today, in the modern economy, we have an ownership on nature. So if I have 10 acres, and like I said, and Ram has 5 acres, then I have the ability to earn more money if I'm not a farmer. And if, so these are the things which have changed in the modern economy. And the last major difference is ancient trade was within nature's carrying capacity. Whatever nature was giving, nature was able to sustain. We were living in that. But today, it is about competition and comparison. I must compete with somebody else. I have to compare what does my neighbor have? What does this chap in my company have? He is a full professor and I'm an associate professor. So these are things which keep coming up as in the academic line, but in the real world, these things are very, very common. So if you look at the way ancient trade was structured, there's only one thing which comes to your mind, and that is sustainable. On the other hand, the way modern economy is structured is non-sustainable. And I'm going to talk about what I mean by non-sustainable. Like I said, let me apologize to all the economics professors for oversimplifying things. The only reason why I'm oversimplifying the economy is so that equitable distribution. I'm sure there are some of you who are not economists, who have not trained in economics, and you might need the economic structure to be simplified. So bear with me, right? So I'll show you my my exposition of how the economy works, today's economy. On one side, you have households, which is you and me, your house and my house. On the other side,